implementation consideration presentation. So I can open up the floor for question and answers. Tim, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you again for that, Prasad. We do have a few questions, actually. First one that came in is, can you explain more about logical blocks, example in the application design?
Yeah. As I just given an example, I'll give you an example of implementation we have done. We had to have HR planning separately because HR has quite a few accounts or quite a few parameters within that which decide on what the HR expense is. For example, you have bonuses, you have incentives, you have salaries, you have step increases, and it's a process by itself. And then you want to bring the data into your P&L. So you could have both of them in P&L itself and had the HR within that. But that would be very inefficient because many of the processes are totally different from P&L. So what we do is we run the HR model as another logical block and do all the calculations and bring only those accounts which are relevant to the P&L, just the expense part of it. Similarly, I just given an example of, you're having revenues and G&A separately, marketing separately, your COGS separately, and maybe other taxes separately. Because these people who use these models are different user groups. So it's always better to organize them separately and let them do their calculations and inputs separately and bring them over to P&L. And this thing would really help organizing the processes very good.
Great. Okay. I think we actually have a little bit of time just for two more questions. One question from one of the participants. Can you point out any example where you mentioned that you use BADIs for complex calculations instead of script logic?
Yeah. So complex calculations are, especially, I'll take the HR example once again. We had different flavors of HR employees. Some are temporary, some are permanent, and some are borrowed from other business units. And the calculations are very different. And the calculations are you have wages and you have benefits, and also whenever you change the planned employees' start dates dynamically, then that has to go back and rerun the whole calculation of expenses. So if you had to use script logic, that would be cumbersome. It is very non-structured. It's very difficult to manage the process, and also the debugging is totally not possible with script logic. So what we have done is we have used the baddies, and we have taken care of all these calculations in the baddies and steps, and also we had the modularization of each of these blocks, and we assembled them in the baddies. In fact, we had a couple of baddies to make it reusable, and we managed it much better. And also we brought down the response times very low because ABAP is a structured, proven language, and we had good ABAPers to do that. It's much easier and cheaper. If I had to do that in script logic, it would be a nightmare.
Got it. Okay. I think we have a chance for one more question because we're going a little bit over time. The last question that we have here is are these dashboards built using Excelsius? Yes,
these dashboards are all used. The dashboards I've shown you are all built in using Excelsius. Excelsius is very flexible. It's much more easier to build. It's not only for BPC. You can also use any other data source and build it and show them. They're very flexible. They're very easy to operate, and they're lightweight. So it's always recommended to use Excelsius with BPC. And in SAP, it gives you the integration infrastructure right with BPC.
Excellent, great. So it looks like we're a little bit over our time, so what I'll go ahead and do is I'll conclude the webinar. I do want to remind everyone that we'll send out a recording of this shortly, as well as we'll answer any questions that we weren't able to get to with one of our account executives or one of our engineers. But I want to thank everyone for participating on Sierra Infosys webinar on SAP BPC and best practices, how to avoid project pitfalls. Look for more of our videos coming soon, as well as more of our webcasts and webinars. I do encourage you, if you're in the public sector arena, to participate and join our webcast on Thursday that's going to focus on public sector performance. So with that being said, I want to thank everyone again for joining our webinar, and you have yourself a